After an extraordinary 48 hours in politics where it feels like those inside the government are turning on one another, one of the Conservative Party grandees, broadcaster and former Defence Secretary Michael Portillo is here to reveal why all sides of the Tory party, from the Thatcherites to those who smashed down the Red Wall, are furious, and whether Boris will survive when the dust settles. Michael, great to have you here. It's been a difficult week for your party. And before the break, we saw that newspaper front page suggesting that Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss might even be circling. But is this really the end for Boris Johnson? Because he remains such a popular figure, doesn't he?
Well, I think that is the question that the Conservative Party is asking itself now. He certainly has been a popular figure. I remember that he won London twice for the Conservatives, and that's a socialist city. Then he had a majority of 80 for the Conservatives, and he got Brexit done. These are formidable achievements. And if that's the Boris that still exists today, the Tories will stick with him. But is that the Boris that we have today? Opinion polls now suggesting that a majority of the population wants him to resign. I've just been at a TV show where it was clear that the vast majority of the audience no longer believed a word that he said. So Tories are referred to as ruthless people, but, you know, they understand politics. And if you've got a Red Wall seat, or if for that matter you've got another Chesham and Amersham, you want to know whether Boris is still an electoral asset. He certainly has been, but they're now asking the question whether he can be in the future. One would like to think that, you know, he could pull the plane out of the nosedive. What's so depressing about this is it's been one terrible story after another. Every time you think that things could not possibly get worse, they've got substantially worse. And the common theme is, you know, firstly, that Boris is no kind of leader. OK, there's no surprise about that. That has always been known. But what was expected was that he would have a powerful team working for him, and that would be well organised. And what we see now is chaos. I mean, it's a year since Dominic Cummings left, rather more. And people said, oh, you know, the government got so much better when Cummings left. Well, the government actually lost some of its verve when Cummings left. For a while, it appeared to be less chaotic, but now it appears to be as chaotic as ever. So I think a lot of Tories are saying, you know, we'd be happy, we'd be willing to give Boris another chance, but there's just no sign that he has the formula to get that plane back in the sky.
What's been so interesting is that it was the Christmas party thing that had the cut through, because there's been a lot of issues over the past few months, haven't there? There's been the sleaze, there's been the reversal of the pledge on taxation, there's been these new COVID measures introduced, but it really does feel like it's the hypocrisy that the public are most furious about. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And I think some of the people who have been making the criticisms are themselves hypocrites. You know, I think there was quite a lot of COVID regulation busting going along.
But isn't the point they made the rules? I didn't make the rules. I was railing against the rules.
No, of course. I perfectly understand that. I'm just observing that sometimes when I hear people going on about this in a holier-than-thou manner, you can't wait for the revelation that actually puts that person in the dock.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this was going on in television and the press, and, you know, all of us know that. But no, it really has hit a raw nerve. Interestingly, I mean, I don't think there's any evidence, and I don't think there will be, that Boris was at these parties. But nonetheless...
Certainly not the infamous one on December the 18th.
Well, perhaps you know more than I do then. But I mean, the fact that his team was flouting the rules really has had cut through with people. And I'll tell you why I think the members of Parliament must be so furious, because when you had that new intake, the Red Wallers and all those other people who came in 2019, that did such a lot to change the reputation of the Conservative Party. People said, my goodness, this party is completely different. You know, it has different social attitudes. They look different. They sound different. They're from working class backgrounds. You know, it was a complete laundry of the Conservative Party. But now we're back to all the old things, and they are being tarred because of Owen Paterson, one person. They're tarred with sleaze and being part-timers. Because of this party thing, they're tarred, all of them, with the idea that they make laws for the public but don't comply with them themselves. Now, for the vast majority of Conservative members of Parliament, this is the most grotesque injustice. which of course makes them extraordinarily angry. They don't want to be tarred with this brush. And it's so depressing that it goes back to an old narrative that had been unwritten. The pages of that old sleazy Tory narrative have been torn up. And now, my goodness, they find themselves back in the well.
So you're a shrewd political mind. You know this party better than most. If you were advising Boris Johnson, how can he turn this around? What does he need to do tomorrow to get ahead of this and potentially save his premiership?
I'm afraid I think the answer to that is he needs to be a different person from the one that he is. And
that's tough.
And
that's impossible.
Well, that is really tough veering on impossible, yes. Because, the Boris who wins elections is also the Boris who's no good at coping with everyday life. I mean, he's made an industry of being buffoonish and chaotic and disorganised. And
he's just had another baby today, which isn't going to make things more simple in his private life.
But lots of people have loved that about him because they can identify with that. But they can't entirely identify with chaos, and they certainly can't identify with being fooled. And I think that's the thing. You hear that phrase all the time, he's playing us for fools. He thinks we're fools. People don't like to be played for fools. I think he has some quite bad influences around him. I'm not going to name them right now, but I think he really ought to take a step back from some of these people.
Including his wife?
I'll leave that in your mouth rather than mine. He needs people who are not there to fight each other, but are there to support him in governing the country. I mean, see, a terrible irony about all of this is I actually think the government's COVID policy has been very good.
Even this Plan B?
No, not this Plan B. So let me be more specific. The government's COVID policy from December of 2020 till a few weeks ago has been pretty good.
Yeah, so good vaccination effort, Freedom Day was sensible.
Freedom Day was good, and then I think even the fact that lots of the population has been infected is good. We've had tens of millions of people by now, so even the unvaccinated are probably have very high levels of immunity. Brilliant. What has happened recently is they've let go of the vaccination programme. The first and second doses are at pathetic levels. The booster programme has been disappointing. They haven't done nearly enough to get at the ethnic minorities. And now they've been panicked into this Plan B. The reason some Tories, are so furious is they had said they would only go to a Plan B if there was evidence that hospitalisations were rising. Hospitalisations in general across the country are static. They're not rising.
5%.
Deaths have been static or falling. Only 5% of beds are occupied.
Of beds, yeah. COVID cases.
The crucial figure remains that you're 30 times more likely to die if you are unvaccinated than double vaccinated. So,
But on that point, that is clearly why yesterday and whether it was part of a dead cat strategy or not, it doesn't matter to me. It was a very controversial statement to suggest a national conversation about mandatory vaccination. Now, I can't believe that a Conservative Prime Minister would even countenance that. Can you?
No, I cannot. And even the halfway stages, I think, require a lot of debate. Because, part of the strategy is to bully people into getting vaccinated by saying you can't go to a nightclub or, maybe in future, as in France and so on, you can't go to a restaurant. So you create a sort of two-tier society in which you hope that one tier will aspire to get into the other tier. But I have not seen a sort of granular strategy about how you get into the ethnic minorities that are very vaccine sceptical. I think we're only at about 60% vaccination of the black population, significantly higher amongst the white population and particularly amongst the white elderly population. So, I think we've wasted months in which we've not, made greater efforts to get into that population. I certainly think we've missed the drive that was there at the beginning of the vaccination programme. Somewhere in the middle of the year, the government just took the foot off the accelerator, and how crucial that could now prove to be, because if people were double vaccinated
mandatory
and boosted,
vaccination, not the way to go.
Not the way to go, and not the way we will go. You see, that's why it's so tiresome that he raises the subject, because you and I know that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Well, we'll tear the country apart.
Yeah, we'll tear the country apart, and it's not...
Tear his party apart.
It's not... It tears the party apart, it's not the British way, you wouldn't find a practical way to do it. You and I can trot out 100 reasons why it's not going to happen, so why even raise it?
Indeed. Fascinating analysis as ever. Michael Portillo, so good to see you
Dan.
tonight. Thank you very much.